We're going to use a Listview control to display records or rows of data from an array. So let's drag a Listview control onto my form. And the Listview is similar to a list box. It just gives us a few more facilities, a few more things we can do. So that's the rough size I want. And basically what I'm going to use this for in this short tutorial is to display the maximum and minimum temperatures for each month in the year for the UK. In other words, they're not going to be very good. I need 3 columns. First of all, there's a little arrow like a play key at the top right here. If I click on that, it allows me to set up some defaults for this list view. First of all, where it says view, there's a number of options. I'm not going to go into them. We're just going to use details. This will give us a list view that allows us to put columns and rows of data. And I need 3 columns, so I'm going to do edit columns. I'm going to add. I've got the first column header. That's the first column in my list. If you can see, it's going to be that one over there. I'm just going to give it a name, a text label, should I say, that I can understand. And this first column is going to be the month of the year, the name of the month. We'll have a second column which is going to hold the high temperature, the highest temperature in that month, on average. High temperature. And the last column, the third one, is going to have the low temperature. Ooh, it can get very cold in here in the winter. Alright, so I've got that. I'm just going to resize them to make them look a little bit better. So month's going to take the month of the year. High temperature goes there, low temperature goes there. That's basically it. So that's a layout for displaying my values. A couple of other things I want to do. I want to give the, if I click on the control, I want to give the control a name, a technical name that I can refer to in my program code. So I've clicked on the control. You can see that it says list view. So that's the control I'm on. Let's go up and look for wherever it is, the name. Instead of the default list view one, I'm going to call this a prefix of LST for list, and I'm going to put temperature. So that's the name of the list view, so I can refer to it in my program. What else do I need to change? Oh, there's one of the things. I want grid lines to appear like an Excel spreadsheet. So I want lines between the rows and the columns. Keep your eyes open. Where is it? Grid lines. Instead of false, I'm going to set that to true. There's some other clever things you can do, like changing background color and foreground. I'll let you figure that out in your own time. 2 other things I'm just going to add is down the bottom. I'm just going to have an indication of what the highest temperature is in the year and what the lowest. So I've got a label, and I'm just going to, that wasn't too clever. I'm just going to change the text on that label to say high temperature or high temp. And then I'm going to put another label down beside it, which is going to be where I'm going to switch that to show the high temperature. We'll look at that a bit later. I'm going to give that a name, that second label, because I need to refer to it in my program code. So I'm going to give it a prefix in lowercase, LBL, label, and just high. Now let's do the same thing because we want to show the low temperature for the year, the lowest temperature. Let's go to the text. And let's type in low temp so the user knows what the number is about. And then let's put in one more label down here. And I don't want to change the text. This label, I want to change the name. So I can refer to it in my code. That's going to be label low. Okay, I've set up the basic layout for my form. At this point, just halt the video. Go off, create the Windows form yourself, put on the list view, set up the columns, and then put in these 2 labels down the bottom. So pause the video, do that, and then come back when you're finished. Let's put some code in. Okay. If I want to put, the code I want to put in is not in a button. I want to put it on something called the form load event. What it means is the code I'm going to put in will run when the form is loaded, when the user displays it. It doesn't need anything else. To get to that, there's a number of ways. I'm just going to double click on the form 1 header, and you can see I don't need that label there. I've got a little subroutine that says sub form 1 load. What it means is this subroutine is run when this form is loaded. In true Blue Peter style, I've already done the code to save you watching me fumbling around and misspelling it. I'm going to do this in stages. I'm going to first of all put in the code for my arrays that are going to hold the temperatures. And you notice I put them just underneath the public class, so they're not inside a subroutine. This means they're global. These arrays will be available anywhere in the program. These arrays are called initialized arrays. That's because they've got this curly braces, and in between it they've got a bunch of values separated by commas. What it means is when the array is created, these numbers and these values are held in the array at each index point. So for example, I've got an array, and remember an array is a variable that has more than one value, so I've got an array called high temperature equals, and then I initialize it with these values. And I've got another one called low temperature, and that gets initialized with these values. That means and there's 12 values, one for each month of the year. So the first value here is for month 1, January, and the high temperature is a very cold 8 degrees, and the average low temperature is a very cold -2. Yeah, all the way up to the other end where you've got December, which would be the 12th value. High temperature 8 again, low temperature, ooh, a very warm 0 degrees. Okay, that's my arrays. Now let's put in the code to display those arrays in my list view. Once again, let's save me you watching me type it out and fumbling. I'm going to copy it in and then explain what the code means. Okay. So the code goes into my form load subroutine. Remember, this subroutine runs when the form's loaded. Let's have a look. First of all, I've got a for next loop. Very good for iterating, going through an array index by index. Then I've got my list temperature. If you remember, when I created this list view, on my form I called it LST temperature. Well, now in the code I'm referring to it, and then I've got a dot, and then I've got this thing called items, and I've got add. What this does, this first line, it adds a single row to my list view. What it puts in that row is what's in between these brackets. Now I've got something strange there. Well, it's not that strange. Month name is actually a table given to you by Visual Basic, which holds the month names, the name in text of a month, and all you have to do is say what number the month is. I've used this strange thing called I+1. Remember, in a for next loop, I, the value there, this counter, starts off with the value 0, goes up to the value 11, and then stops. Remember, arrays start from 0. The first index number is 0, not 1. However, the month name array that is given to us by VB.net starts from 1. So confusing matters. I just add 1 to the counter. So when this counter first starts, it's 0. I add 1 to it, therefore there's a 1 sitting in here. The month name for 1, lo and behold, is January. That's that one. And then I've got another line of code here. Now I'm referring to items 1 again, or whatever I'm looping. So this refers to the row I'm in, which is created here. A sub-item, a strange word for it, means the detail you want to add to the columns. So that first piece of code, the first piece of code, this one, adds a value into this column, month. And this second piece of code here adds a value into the second column, high temperature. And you probably guessed it, this piece of code here adds in a value into this third column. In other words, you have to create one column to create a row, and then it's called a sub-items. That means each of the columns in that row. Near enough there. Let's run it and I'll explain these other ones. Oops, the error's telling me I haven't given my labels a name on the form. You'll have to go back and do this as well if you want to get the code right. These labels I'm going to refer to in my program. Oh, it's called a label high. I haven't labeled it. Let's go back and change my code. Oh, I called it label max. So if I type in label high, double click, you can see it's there. That must be label low. So if you label them like that, you just need to change that code. And that is the code on my form load event. Fingers crossed, guys. Let's see if it works. Look out for the list of errors. Oh, so lucky. There you go. And that is it. Month names, high temperatures, low temperatures. The highest temperature in the year is 28, that's correct, and the lowest temperature is -2. Now go off and put the code in yourself and run it and see how it works.